The roads of Picardie are lined with poppies. Long associated with World War I, the poppy has come to symbolize both the beauty of the land and the blood shed there. Nestled in this landscape is the legacy of the battles fought and the gallant humanitarian efforts that helped the French people rebuild their lives. The Château Blérancourt is a living memorial and the site of a French-American museum devoted to 400 years of art and history, exploring the ongoing interconnectedness of two world powers. Located 110 kilometers from Paris, just northeast of Compiègne, close to where the armistice was signed in a railway car to end World War I, the museum is currently undergoing a major renovation that combines interactive technologies in a dynamic, new architectural design with the structural integrity of a 17th century chateau in the majesty of the French countryside. During World War I, the Château de Blérancourt had been occupied by the Germans. Then, as early as 1917, it became the organizational headquarters of Anne Morgan, the daughter of the American banker John Pierpont Morgan. Within a year, Anne Morgan created the civilian section of the American Fund for the French Wounded and worked in the field along with the French Army to take care of the civilian population. After the war, she remained at Blérancourt, founding the American Committee for Devastated France. Morgan erected barracks on the site of the chateau to house the American women volunteers. They reconstructed villages, opened hospitals and clinics, restarted agriculture in a land decimated by war, provided educational programs, and traveled throughout Picardie to discover what people needed and then bring it to their homes. In 1924, Anne Morgan, with the help of her friend and colleague Anne-Marie Dyke, created a memorial to celebrate the spirit of Franco-American cooperation. In 1931, it became a French National Museum, and 7 years later, the new edition was inaugurated. The Château de Blérancourt, with its distinctive pavilions, was built by Salomon de Brosse, the architect of the Palais du Luxembourg in Paris, between 1612 and 1624 as an impressive three-storied structure surrounded by a moat. During the French Revolution, the chateau was confiscated and sold to a demolition contractor who auctioned off its stones, many of which were reutilized in the villages nearby. By the time Anne Morgan acquired the chateau, it was a ruin. Its renovation served to define the mission of the museum to present the cooperative and sometimes troubled art and history of the dialogue between France and America. Inside the museum are housed Anne Morgan's personal collections, documents, and ephemera related to the American Field Service and Lafayette Escadrille, as well as paintings of American artists living in France and by French artists in America. A recreation of a children's library reminds the viewer of Anne Morgan's passion to bring education and aid to the villages of Picardie. A World War I ambulance evokes a tangible sense of the tireless efforts of American volunteers and the American Field Service, whose presence is echoed in the row of poplar trees planted outside the chateau in their honor. An early focus of the original donors was the critical participation of the French in the American Revolution and the presence of important Americans in Paris during the French Revolution. Also, in the collection are numerous sculptures by Jean-Antoine Houdon, notably one of George Washington, which stands prominently on the museum grounds. After years of modest growth, the museum was galvanized during the 1980s through the participation of two organizations of friends, one French, responsible for acquisitions, and one American, actively involved in structural expansion and landscaping projects. In 1989, the Florence Gould Pavilion was opened with major funding from the American Friends and the Florence Gould Foundation. It was designed by architects Yves Lyon and Alan Levitt to respect the original plan of the Château. Inside, white marble, sycamore paneling, and glass windows near ground level combine to produce a subtle sense of light. The Florence Gould Pavilion received the Équerre d'Argent, a major architectural award. Today, the museum is undergoing further renovation and preparing for the construction of a new pavilion. The project, again partly funded by the American Friends, is led by architect Yves Lyon. While working on the new museum, an extraordinary discovery was made. A bridge with 4 arches from the 16th century was unearthed and will be integrated into the project. This renovation of the museum involves a major redesign of its galleries and a revolutionary reinstallation of its collections. Organized around a series of chronological themes, anchored by the exhibition of key objects, objets phares in French, the museum will introduce a new approach to presenting art and ideas by emphasizing des regards croisés, interconnections, if you will, how France and America have viewed each other over the course of history. Benjamin Franklin, for example, epitomized the alliance between France and America. When he was sent to Paris as the envoy of the 13 colonies, he was already recognized in France as a printer, editor, inventor, philanthropist, and above all, co-author of the Declaration of Independence. He arrived at the French court without a wig, and his studied air of naïveté endeared him to the people of France because he exemplified the ideals of the common man. In America, the repeated visits of Lafayette enshrined not only his importance, but the enduring contributions of France to American democracy. Over and above the chronology of Franco-American relations, the new museum will explore the cultural processes that underlie the history. How the image which each people forms of the other comes to be. How it evolves over 4 centuries. How at any moment it comes to be widely accepted, and how 2 reciprocal and sometimes disparate images can engender a shift in each. Le musée franco-américain du Château de Blérancourt is unique. Strolling the grounds, the visitor is transported to another place and time. Adjacent to the chateau is an arboretum designed by Michel Boulcourt and planted with American trees, liquid ambers, tulip trees, and various American oaks and maples. Seasonal walled gardens, 3 American and 1 international, designed by Madison Cox and Mark Rutkin, fill the northwest quadrant of the chateau, once vegetable gardens now planted with a profusion of flowers. On the perimeter of the chateau is Le Griffon, a small auberge with rooms overlooking the grounds and a fine restaurant. The village of Blérancourt is just a few steps away. Traditional village life continues here in this picturesque country setting, creating a stirring vision for the future and radiating a deep respect for the past.